Welcome to Love and Relocation. This is Ben Cross. I'm your host. I went with the full name for some reason. I don't know why. This is Love and Relo's the show. I'm your host, Ben Cross. I'm very blessed to be here today with one of my favorite people, Rachel Taylor. Before I bring her out, I want to go ahead and thank my sponsor for today, Sweet America. Let's do Sweet America Top 10 Reasons to Choose Sweet America as your supplier partner. 1, been in business for 30 years, so we know what we're doing. 2, we are an employee-owned company, which means every Sweet America team member cares about outcomes. 3, average employee tenure on our placement team equals 7 years. So again, you know that we know what we are doing. Complimentary mattress swaps, so you get the best night's sleep. 5, full-service concierge-style destination services program, including virtual and online support. 6, hospital-grade sanitation protocol for post-COVID reservations, offers you peace of mind in these trying times. 7, 24/7 guest service, so you can always ask questions and get an answer. 8, multiple ways to personalize an in-suite package for kids, pets, and even vegans. 9, technology that is easy and customizable with the goal of making every reservation easy and stress-free. 10, personalized and tailored suite packages make every reservation unique, just like you. Thank you, Sweet America, for sponsoring today. And thanks, everybody, for joining. Let's bring our guest out. She's backstage. She's chilling in the green room. Rachel Taylor, how are you today?
Hi, Ben. I'm great. How are you?
Rachel, I'm doing great, but I can't seem to get out of my own way this afternoon. I'm like loving relocation. I can't even read a piece of paper. I'm all over the place. You got me nervous,
Oh,
Rachel.
no. No, it happens from time to time. I think the energy in the world right now just has us all a little flustered. So
Yeah,
you're forgiven.
it's got me all mixed up. But hey, if you're watching right now, I see a bunch of people tuning in on Facebook. That's awesome. If you're watching on LinkedIn, let's go ahead and give Rachel a round of applause here. You hit the applause button. See
Oh my gosh.
the little green hands flutter up from the bottom.
Too much.
It's
It's
really
too
special.
much.
Oh, you're gonna have some fun today. I hope you came for a good time, because this is gonna be a lot of fun. People are going to be checking in. Let us know where you're watching us from. Let us know what company you work for. You know, if Jamie, give me the weather. I'm sure you will. And let's go ahead and check in with some people here. Going to the LinkedIn. Here we go. Rachel, where are you? Where in the world are you right now?
I am in the Benton Harbor, St. Joe area on the west side of Michigan, right on beautiful Lake Michigan. And we have 90-degree weather today. The clouds just rolled in, but for the most part, we've been experiencing a lot of sun. So really enjoying the lake and all it has to offer.
Well, the lake is like a double-edged sword on the west side of Michigan, right?
Yes, it's I mean, why I came here, to be honest. Forget Whirlpool. It was like, hello, Lake Michigan. But the erosion as of late is really it's quite a disaster. And, I thought, oh, a couple inches a year, like no big deal. No, we're talking, I mean, feet of sand. Like where I sat on the beach last year is no longer there.
What does
So
that do
that is
to? Where does it
crazy.
go?
The water levels are rising, and I think just the wind, I mean, the waves on Lake Michigan are like nothing I ever remembered from childhood. I'm born and raised in Michigan, so I'm not a stranger to lake life, but the waves can reach, 15 feet. That's pretty normal here. So I think just the wind and the waves just really kind of tear away at the land. And also they wash up like these huge rocks. So it's really interesting. Like, where does all this stuff come from? I don't know. Actually, a body washed up from Chicago.
Was it Jimmy Hoffa?
I joked, like, no, no, it wasn't. But there are crazy things in Lake Michigan and like I said, I'm born and raised in Michigan, and I've always loved up north and stuff. But living here, the things I learned about the lake, it's like I never even knew. I had no clue, but it's amazing though. The view, the water, it's just so nice. So everyone come visit. We have like 38 breweries and wineries in this area. the water, the beach. We still have a beach for you to enjoy. So you got to get over here. And then if the Whirlpool office is open, I'm happy to show you the life-size stand mixer.
You're talking like a true, global mobility person who's pitching, beautiful Benton Harbor. Come on, enjoy the west side of Michigan. Let's
Yeah.
go check in with everybody who is watching us here. We got our wonderful mutual friend here, Brian Smith. What up, Ben and Rachel? Two of my faves. Brian from St. Louis.
Brian, we miss you. We miss happy hour with you.
They used to be the happiest of hours.
Yeah, and Brian, also, we ate a lot of sushi. And I will say the one thing we don't really have here is sushi. So I'm just looking back on the times where we've kind of enjoyed good food and good drinks and shared a laugh all together, like face to face.
I miss it. But I feel like it's soon. Don't you? I mean, how soon do you think? When can I come out to Benton Harbor and we're gonna grab some drinks?
Well, the restaurants are open, so you're free to come whenever you want. I don't know how it is back on the east side, but on the west side, we're a smaller town anyway, so I think it's easier to open up and manage the whole social distancing thing. So pretty much all my favorite places are open. So whenever you two are ready,
All
let's
right.
go.
That sounds good. All right, so let's see. We got Michael Quigley here checking in Silicon Valley in the house. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Maybe turn down the volume just a little bit, Rachel, if you can. I don't know.
Okay.
Francine Dresty in the house. Hi, Ben, Janet, and Rachel. This is wonderful. Francine, it's good to see you. Jamie Massler. Hi, Ben and Rachel. Cheers from sunny, windy Mississippi. Lovely. Jamie, I'm going to come see you in Mississippi and get some of this weather. Hosea Botley, hello, Ben, Rachel, and Janet from rainy Seattle. Everybody's doing the weather now. I love it. Hi, all. Should be eventful. Sandra knows. So,
Somebody warned her.
I know. Have you met Sandra, or she just has your reputation preceded you?
And I'm sorry if I have met you, Sandra. It's not ringing in a bell, but I usually do better when I'm actually talking to people. I start to remember, so I can't tell from your little picture there.
Well, don't worry. We're not going to play the game where we go through and make you say if you know people or not.
They're going to ban me from Love and Relo because they don't remember.
Oh, my God. Heather Jameson. Hello, Ben and Rachel. There's a DRC.
Hi, Heather. Heather and I worked together at BGRS back in the day.
All right, let's go ahead and start there then. Okay, so tell me your global mobility story. How did you get into this crazy industry?
Okay, so I was born in a small town, Grand Blanc, Michigan. It's a suburb of Flint. I went to a college in a small town called Adrian College. Go Bulldogs. I majored in Spanish, and everybody said, "What are you going to do with that?" And I just said, "I don't know. Like, at least I'm here, okay?"
Okay.
And actually, I originally wanted to go to dental school, but I was a college athlete and I hated the chem and the bio and the hours, and I'd always taken Spanish. And one of the requirements was to study abroad. So I was like, yeah, my mom has to let me go to South America. Like, I have to go. So I graduated from college in 2012, which for everyone who remembers 2012 was not a great time to be looking for a job. So I worked at the local Applebee's in Flint, Michigan, and I also worked in a call center at a pharmacy. And did
I feel like the Applebee's in Flint, Michigan is
wild. That's a whole nother podcast.
I know. I feel like that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, if anyone needs a laugh, I'm happy to share, all kinds of stories. That Applebee's is actually the busiest Applebee's in the state of Michigan. So I'll just let you use your imagination. What does that mean?
Use your imagination.
So anyway, I just got fed up at the pharmacy. It was really hard. My job, I would oftentimes have to call people and tell them, your medication is $4,000. Your insurance don't cover it. It was just really hard for me. And I imagined that I would be helping people, not like delivering this terrible news. So one day I was like, I quit. And I just Googled Spanish speaking jobs, Detroit, Michigan. And relocation counselor popped up. And I was like, that's not a job, but I'll apply. Sure.
That's not a job, but okay.
So I did apply for this job that I didn't think was real. And I was asked to come to an interview. And I was like, sure, I'm not really doing anything. except schlepping up spinach dip at Applebee's. So I'll come to this interview in Detroit, Michigan, in the RenCen. I had never been to Detroit. I didn't know what the RenCen was. No freaking clue. So I was like, yeah, here I go. It's my fake interview. It's a scam. So I
So
roll up
what is
to
the
the
RenCen?
actual RenCen. It is the GM headquarters. It's short for the Renaissance Center. It is an iconic building in Detroit. So when you see the Detroit skyline, the building with like 5 cylinders, that is the RenCen. It has a ton of history, originally owned by Ford. Now GM operates out of there. So yeah, it's actually a pretty big deal, a pretty important building. I had no clue. So I went to the interview. It was real. It was real. And they called me about a week later and were like, are you serious about commuting from Flint to Detroit? And I was like, yeah. I mean, I was desperate for a job. Like, you're going to pay me? Like, yes, I will do whatever. So I got the job. I joke. I actually took a bus from Flint to Detroit for 6 months for this job at Brookfield because I thought it was that cool and exciting. And 7 years later, here I am now working at Whirlpool on our global mobility team here. After 4 years at the RMC, I kind of wanted to switch over to the other side. I thought for a long time, hey, I could do that. Like, I could totally run a global mobility program. So I'm out here hustling now, trying to run global mobility programs, but I definitely look back on those relocation management days with a lot of, like, I miss them. They were so fun getting to know these employees on a, kind of really personal basis. I think I moved like 600 people during my time there, and just really was a great foundation to kind of switch over here to the client side of things, and always kind of keep that in my back pocket. So I have a few tricks up my sleeve when it comes to relocation management companies and how we work with them on the global mobility team.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about the differences and what you've learned, and kind of ask you to compare the two experiences and talk a little bit about how we can all work together. I want to go ahead and give some more shout outs here and see who else is checking in here. We got Mena from Dubai. Hey, Mena. Sarah Cervantes from, she's shouting out Sweet America. Gabrielle, excited for this conversation. Hello from Milwaukee. Tim Quirk. Hello, Rachel and Ben. Great day in Western New York. I love the weather. Kelly Gurin, checking in from Phoenix at Shift. Hope all is well. You too, Kelly. Rodrigo.
Rodrigo, I actually moved Rodrigo at Brookfield.
So Rodrigo, how did she really do? Because she's over here like, oh, I loved it. It was gray, sunshine, unicorns. I mean,
I remember all my families. I remember Rodrigo. He had a dog. I believe he has 2 sons and a wife. And I even remember the apartment complex that he stayed in when he was living in Metro Detroit. He was part of a group move from Brazil. So,
well, don't start sharing any PII over here, okay?
No. I can't say much more, but Rodrigo was so fun to work with. He was a kind of a leader, and he's always kept tabs on me. So that's why I say you build such meaningful relationships when you're in that consulting role. And it really does follow you around. When I'm thinking about my day-to-day and the decisions we make in my company, whichever company it may be, I'm always thinking about the conversations I had as a consultant and the people I moved. And that really is like kind of the human element that I think that gives me a bit of an advantage over somebody who maybe came just straight from an HR background or something like that. Not to shade them at all. It's just, a different way of thinking.
How many people like Rodrigo have you kept in touch with, or you still talk to?
Oh, I have a dozen. Where we keep in touch on LinkedIn. I've had people that found me on Facebook. I actually have had a few wives who keep in touch with me pretty frequently. But I get messages all the time from people just, saying, hey, I remember when this happened, or I see you moved, like, congratulations. So it's just really interesting. And also, a lot of people ask me for advice on immigration. So the fact that they still think that they can come to me for a little bit of assistance and support, I'm not soliciting legal advice or anything like that, but I'm so flattered that people still think of me as a resource or somebody that's willing to help them.
I'm getting text messages from people right now talking about how much they're enjoying this already. This is
Oh, that's
great.
great.
And they want
They're too kind.
immigration advice.
And you bribed them with the cannoli.
That's it. The cannolis for closers. Roxanne McKnight, hi from very hot DFW. Speaking of cannolis, Laura Meehan Agazian, hi Ben, getting addicted to your show. Hi Rachel. Laura, I owe you that cannoli unboxing video. I did it this weekend. I'm gonna drop it. I promise. Me and the kids enjoyed the cannolis. We filled our own cannolis. I think we got a little bit more left. We'll probably finish them off tonight. So thank you again for that, Laura. Yeah, so sweet of you. Mike Gamble, hello from Oakwood Residences in New York. Simon Johns in the UK. What's up, Simon? Hey, there's our friend Dan Caraher.
What's up, Dan?
Hi, Ben and Rachel. I miss you guys. Miss you too, Dan. David Sharon, he's on the west side of the state there. He's in Kalamazoo.
No way.
Kazoo. Yep, doing real estate out there. Hi, Ben and Rachel.
We're close by, David. We're close by. Yeah, Kalamazoo is the nearest Sam's Club, so I frequent that, and Costco, actually.
We'll go meet in the parking lot of a Sam's Club and pop one.
You ever wonder, where I am most weekends? You can usually find me at the Kalamazoo Sam's Club.
Oh, my God. That's great. Jason Rollins, hi, Ben. Hi, Rachel. Jason Express Corporate Housing checking in on a beautiful day in Foxborough, Mass. There's Mary, also from the west side of Michigan. Hello from West Michigan. Lake Michigan is beautiful.
See?
Awesome. Molly Feldman, hello from Jacksonville. I have fond memories of Lake Michigan. I guess nobody knew of a body in there. That nobody's claiming that body.
Sarah and I worked together at Brookfield, and we had so much fun there with each other.
Sarah, we gotta get together sometime in the D here. I feel like we've never really been able to really connect and spend time together. So hope you're doing well, Sarah. Let's see, LinkedIn user from DFW. Sometimes they don't pop in. Stacy Grossi, there you go. Ed Cohen, hi from Big Bear Lake, California, 7,000 feet high. I always knew Ed was high. Stacy Miller, hi Ben and Rachel.
Hi Stacy, can you send the Quicken Loans box to my house directly this year? This time. There
you go.
Whatever summer gift you have.
Mary Beth Eubank. Hi from the big Kentucky, the big Mary Beth here from the big KY. There we go. Ryan Watroba, hello Rachel and Ben, greetings from upstate New York. Looking at Lake Michigan from a deck in Ludington, we have some of the most beautiful white sand beaches in the world in West Michigan, from St. Joe to Traverse City. And St. Joe is basically where you are, right, in Benton Harbor?
Yes. I actually live in a small town called Stevensville. The population is less than 3,000 people, but St. Joe is like just a little hop down the road here.
So what was it like moving from the east side of the state to the west side of the state? And I think that's something that you've shared with me also, that personally, that was a challenge for you, but it's also a challenge for your company as well. So how do you deal with that personally and as a company?
So admittedly, we have a hard time recruiting, quote unquote, top talent, or just, they say young people don't want to live here. And I can totally see it. There's not a huge nightlife scene, especially if you're young and single and maybe you're still dating or on the market. There's not a lot of hotties to pick from here. Okay, so,
your words, not mine. Love it.
I mean, it is a small town. So when I first moved here, I was really surprised that things closed at 10. I thought it was 2019. It's 2019. You should be able to go out to eat at 9:30 and not run into an issue of like, hey, the kitchen's closed. But I think that after being in Detroit, I loved it. I enjoyed my time there so much. I will forever be thankful for the opportunities I had at Brookfield and working at Forcia. but the traffic is literally miserable. And I didn't realize how miserable it was making me until I didn't have to deal with it every day. And now my drive to work is like 12 minutes, no traffic, like nothing. Like it just is such a breeze. I see the lake on the way. It's so nice. So that was a perk. I think one thing, it's a little bit harder to kind of make friends. The social scene isn't as strong as you might think. So it's taken me maybe a little more time than I had imagined. You know, I thought Meetup is a thing. There's a Bumble BFF app is a thing where you can look for people who are looking for friends. And in Detroit, those are really normal ways to make friends. Out here, there's no, there's no Meetup, there's no Bumble BFF, no one's on there.
Okay, time out. I need clarification. So there's a platonic Bumble out there.
Yes, yeah. So you match with other people who are looking for friends. And I think this is really great for if you're a relocation professional and you are moving people, young single people, these are great resources to kind of help them if they're looking for a social circle. Meetup is an amazing app where essentially a host plans different events. There's different interests, food, wine, beer, running, pets, whatever, and you go and you meet other people. Bumble BFF is a one-on-one, right? So you might match with somebody and talk and, hey, maybe you grab a cup of coffee and maybe you like each other. And it's like dating, but for friends. And I promise I've made friends this way. It is totally normal. And I think a really great resource if you're in an area that has those resources. They're not super popular here. So I had to do things the old fashioned way, right? Sometimes I have to go to stuff alone, or I have to ask my friends from work to hang out. Or the gym. I started to make friends at the gym, which in Detroit you go to the gym and you don't talk to anyone. But here it's like if you're here, they're kind of like, are you new? What are you doing here? So those were kind of my ways to get a social circle. And that was probably the hardest part.
You bring up a really good point here, I think, and I know you were big in Meetup in Detroit and hosted some. I hosted Meetup or two as well. Made a lifelong friend also around a Dallas Cowboys interest group. So I totally get it. And what's interesting, so my wife was doing a lot of these meetups and these Facebook groups as well. And what she was finding is that the people that were in them were oftentimes transferees or expats even. Ton of expats from all over. I mean, Mexico, Germany, Sweden, whatever. And David Sharon also just moved to Western Michigan from Ohio, and he's kind of finding some of the same issues that you're finding, and is looking at Meetup, and as common as Meetup is lacking in Western Michigan for sure. And then we talked to. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. I want to go a little deeper on this because it's so funny. These social apps are actually solving mobility problems. But then Lynn Greenberg, who was on here, the founder of Pivot app, which is an app that aggregates experiential data from employees who have moved over to overseas or to different areas, and then gives it back to you to say, here's what other people's experiences have been, and here's a way to connect with people like you. They're filling the same type of a gap. Janice says, I wonder if Pivot app could help in the same way for Whirlpool incoming talent. But I mean, let's dig this, like kind of peel this back a little bit more, and I want to hear your thoughts on using these social meeting apps for mobility people. I mean, is there a real application here, and what would that look like?
Well, there's definitely an application. And I honestly, once I started using Meetup myself and realized that it's safe, it is, that you can completely do everything through the app. It's pretty verified. I never experienced anything uncomfortable or weird. And you can always, report somebody to Meetup if there's an issue. So they do kind of take action. I mean, they don't background check people, but, if something shady happens, you can definitely report that through Meetup and they would kind of investigate or remove them from the app or whatever. And I met actually two of my good friends that I met from my Meetup group that I used to run are both expats, one from Mexico and one from the Dominican Republic. And that is how they made all their friends in Detroit. And that's how they met each other, was through these kind of social meetup apps. I know there's another like expat group. I can't remember the name right now either, but it's like a website and they plan events specifically for expats. Um, so I think it's really helpful when you're going somewhere and you don't know a single person to think, but there's hope for me to meet somebody, right? Or these are the resources. If somebody says that, hey, there's a Brazilian group or there is, a Spanish speaking group. It's helpful to know once I get there, I do have resources to kind of try to meet people. I have a place to start. When you don't necessarily know where to start, it's super easy to get really down and feel lonely. You're learning so many new things. And it can be hard to know where to start just because you don't know the area. You don't know what people do or, what's like the normal thing that people do here on a Saturday night, or where are the good places to eat? Where's the library? Like all of those things. So it's nice to kind of imagine and have that reassurance that there is perhaps a group and there are perhaps people interested in kind of befriending you and helping you to satisfy that social hunger you might have. I'm super extroverted, so for me that was probably the hardest. Is I was used to going out to dinner with my friends like 3 or 4 nights a week. So I came here and I was like, I don't go out to dinner anymore. So
Yeah, and then you like kind of and then you kind of overly rely on your friends at work, and then it's
mhm.
like, well, they've got lives and they're from the area and they've got families and they've got whatever, and it's like now you're
Yeah.
just like, hey, you want to be my best friend? And it's like, well, hey, okay.
And I hate to say it, but when I stare at you for 8 hours a day, I don't necessarily want to, have to stare at you for 2 hours over drinks and dinner either. Um, it's one thing to hang out at work and have lunch together. It's another to have, your friends that you go to happy hour or go shopping with, or stuff like that. So I have found some friends at work since. I think that, we have a lot of young talent at Whirlpool. So there are some people I found, but it's always like an awkward, like, I call it dating, it's kind of like, do they need a friend? Do they want to be my friend? Do they want to hang out outside of work? You have to evaluate what stage are you in? Is it okay to be like, hey, should we grab dinner? So it took maybe longer than I had thought it would take to kind of build that network.
So Lynn below here says, Lynn Greenberg, the problem I found with Meetup is it's hit or miss, time consuming, and wanted to meet friends before moving to get advice for social reasons, kind of do some of that DSP work probably that way. And the thing with DSPs too, right? It's like, DSP could show you around or something, or there could be, a home finding trip or whatever. But you're not gonna call them up and be like, hey, so you want to go out for dinner, and then again next weekend, and then again the weekend after that.
Yeah, no, my DSP visit was the day of my interview at Whirlpool, and it was just a drive around. She did a great job of explaining things, but I joke, I thought I did not get this job. I was 3 hours late because there was an accident and I-94 was shut down. So thank you, Detroit traffic. So I was like, they're just being nice, okay? And by the time I got there, the cafeteria was closed, so we didn't get to have lunch. My tour was supposed to be at like 2:30. It was bumped back to 4:30, so I was just starving. I was exhausted, and I was like, I'm not moving here anyway. Like, they definitely don't want this girl who was so late to the interview. So I always say, looking back, I wish I would have taken like a notebook and written down a lot of the things she told me, because then once I moved here, I was like, hey, I remember she mentioned there is a book club where they read books about food and then cook them. And I have no clue where that, like, what store that was at. Like, I don't know. Or there's a really famous bakery here where world renowned. I don't know what that place is called. So that was one thing I wish I would have done differently. I would have actually paid attention when she was talking and like literally tried to think of myself here in the area living. And yeah, it's a one-time thing. It's not like I'm gonna call her up and be like, surprise, I'm here. What's up? Like, what's the next step? What are we doing today? Like, no, it's not like that.
So there's a valuable piece of advice in there that I think you just skimmed over, and it's if you're running late to a job interview, be 3 hours late. Don't just be like 10 minutes late. Like really, really nail it. Like really
And
be
I
three
did
hours.
do that. I screenshotted from Google Maps like the shutdown and sent them to the recruiter. Like I wanted them to know I was so serious. This was not just me being like a total loser, running late. Like this was legit. Like
And the second piece of advice here that I'm getting out of your story is the common thread here for career advice is always go into it thinking you're not going to get the job, or that it's not a real opportunity, and then hey,
yes.
you know what, you might just get it. But that actually leads me to a fantastic question. We have a viewer question, and hey everybody, if you're watching this, please leave your questions. We're going to answer them. It's so much more fun when you just ask questions, and she's here for another 30 minutes, so she ain't going anywhere, so you can ask whatever you want, and she'll probably give you a real answer too. That's one thing about Rachel,
Oh yeah.
you'll come to find out real quick. So our friend Brian Smith says, hey, Rachel, this has been great. Love your energy. I'm going to ask you your favorite question. What's the best advice you've received in your career?
Great question. And I also like to ask this question to other people, especially, no offense to men, especially women, because I think sometimes we get really strange advice. So I like to know, how do we pick that apart? I had somebody said the best advice they got was to always wear pantyhose. That's not the advice I'm looking for. Like, whoever gave you that advice, that's not helpful. So anyway,
That
the
that's like when my
best.
that's like when my mom said always wear clean underwear. So if you get hit by a bus, and you go to the doctor or something, you go to the hospital, like you got clean
I
underwear.
don't
I'm like,
know.
really, mom? Like that seems like
I don't know, or even you dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Like it's 2020, things are so career casual now. Like, why's it got to be like that? So, the best advice I received was actually from a woman. Her name is Nina Valione, and she was a VPHR at Forcia. And she, honestly, if I could be like her when I grow up, I'd probably be pretty happy. But when I first met her, she scared me a lot. So, um, she but I got to know her and I really appreciated just how much she cared for her job and her work and how hard she worked. And she told me, actually, her boss had told her back when she was starting her career, if you want to do the big things, you have to do the little things right. And I think that is one thing that I always think about. I don't think I come off as an OCD person or somebody who's super detail oriented, but I think I've built it in my like work, like every email I send, like if there's a typo, I totally beat myself up over it because I want to do the big things. So I want people to see that I can do the small things right. And I do take great care in doing the small things right. Um, so that's one of my favorite things, and I think we sometimes in our careers get frustrated, especially as a young person, thinking, I know so much. I'm so smart. I have so much energy. I want to do so many things. Why am I not being given that opportunity? But if we take the time to do the little things that we've been tasked with or the little things we have to do every day and do them really well, then eventually we'll get the chance at the big things.
That really hit a chord with me because I feel like that was the story of my 20s. I was always trying to get ahead, and I was trying always to look forward and look at the next promotion or the next responsibility, and I wasn't always turning in my assignments on deadline, or I was behind on
Mm-hmm.
things, or maybe I would cut a corner here and there, and I didn't realize that people looked at that as my probability for success in future roles, and I didn't realize that they thought that that was indicative of my overall work ethic and ability to perform. I just kind of thought it wasn't important, so I wasn't going to focus on it. And do the little things in order to get the opportunity. Do the little things. What? Say it again for me, Rachel.
You have to do the little things right in order to do the big things.
have to do the little things right in order to do the big things. That's fantastic. So you talk about, working at Whirlpool. Before this, you worked at Forcia, which is an
Hmm.
automotive manufacturer, um, in the Detroit area, which is when I met you.
Yeah.
And before that, you were at BGRS. And so we have a question here from Kelly. Kelly says, I still remember many employees that I moved from RMC roles, and I'm actually connected with a lot of them on LinkedIn. And she goes on to say, Rachel, was the switch from the RMC to the corporate similar, harder, easier?
Um, I always say being a relocation consultant is actually the hardest job that I think any of us will ever have to do. There is so much that goes into it, and you truly are a lifeline. And I remember somebody said something to me, and they said, Rachel, you're the only person I know in the US. So I have no choice but to trust you. But it's hard to trust
Wow.
you because they don't really know me. We had a 2 hour phone call. We're just getting to know each other, right? And that is a huge role that you play, as well as being stewards of the client's money and managing a consistent policy, managing expectations. That person is taking on a huge challenge. There's a huge professional pressure, as well as just personal pressure. We put so much stake in our career and to be willing to move across the world for an opportunity. I mean, it's a big thing. So I think that consulting it was hard just in terms of communicating every day and so many things you have to remember and think about all the time. So the switch to corporate, I actually would joke, I was like, this stuff's easy. I could do it in my sleep. I think my struggle with switching to corporate is I having to deal with executive leadership and having to deal with people who don't necessarily understand and completely respect relocation processes and global mobility processes and how things come at a cost, or why can't I send, this freaking stuffed tiger from wherever to wherever, in one day, right? There are certain expectations that I can't set internally, and that is sometimes my struggle. Especially going back to 7 year, been doing this for 7 years. I feel like I'm, the expert. I have a lot of great experience, and I definitely know what I'm doing. But when I'm talking to a VP, they're not seeing that, right? They're seeing, like this employee is unhappy. I need them here right now. What are you going to do to fix it? So I think just, yeah, learning how to deal with leadership and business HR and kind of manage working within the internal corporate culture was the hardest switch for me. Um, but the RMC, I mean, I look back on those days so fondly, and people ask me, what do you see for yourself? And I often say, like, I would maybe like to go back to the RMC, maybe in a more like sales or account management role, just because there's something so rewarding about being that close to the actual move that I really miss. And I don't get that kind of daily reward that I used to get as a consultant.
So I also wanted to bring up, and people are loving the advice, by the way, that you were giving earlier too. I wanted to bring up something as well. So help us understand what some of the challenges are that folks in your role today are facing.
Um, I think, and right now I focus a lot on immigration. So I think that, my biggest struggle with immigration is that I can't just print a visa at my desk and have somebody here tomorrow. Processing times are just going up and up. Costs are just going up and up. RFEs and denials are going up and up. And then also, some people simply aren't eligible, or once they get denied, we're out of options. So that's a huge struggle, kind of trying to be an advocate of the company and the employee, as well as balancing compliance and immigration guidelines and rules. And I think also just managing, he said, she said, I think is a huge struggle. And I, personally, when I went through the relocation process, I myself had a he said, she said situation. RMC, which ironically, I have to work with every single day now, went and told my director I said one thing and I didn't say that thing and I had email proof. So then you're in a battle of who's right, who's wrong. And I think experiencing it for myself, it was just, there's two sides to every story and there's truth. And as like working on the client side of things, you have to be able to get to the bottom of it. And a lot of managers and leaders are so quick to say, it's the RMC's fault, it's the immigration provider's fault, you guys dropped the ball. But sometimes it's not always their fault, right? Sometimes the employee wasn't honest or omitted some information, or simply sometimes things just go wrong. It was just circumstantial that maybe something didn't work out the way we imagined it would. So I think those are tough kind of situations to be in because nobody walks away happy or satisfied.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the fact that sometimes employees might misrepresent things, because I think that as much as we want to ensure a fabulous employee experience, I mean, let's be honest, sometimes they are out there trying to game the system and they're trying to get a little extra consideration, a little extra compensation, a little extra whatever. And I think that it is the companies, the people in your role and the RMCs that understand that and understand that suppliers aren't always the bad guy, and that
Yeah.
sometimes the employee needs to take responsibility sometimes as well for some of the situations that they create, and that's a hard balance to strike though. I mean, how do you split the baby, so to speak? How do you get to the bottom of that, and how do you do things that are equitable for both the supplier and the employee? How do you do that?
I think admittedly, this is something I've had to work on myself. I think coming from the RMC, when I first started at 4C, I was very quick to defend the RMC and to defend the global mobility team, which sometimes got me in a little bit of trouble because that was, that's not the culture, right? And this is top talent and we treat our talent well. And I think most companies will say that when you have talent and you're moving top talent, the customer is always right. You do what's right for them. And I had to adjust a little bit. And, sometimes I would take it really personally. Like, you just approved a $20,000 exception for this a-hole. Like, what? He lied. Or, he doesn't deserve it. He's very rude. He swore at me on the phone. Like, why are you encouraging this behavior? Now I kind of take the approach, it's not my money. So, you know what? If you want to waste it, you can waste it. And I find that people who act like that or people who lie, it's going to come out. They're not just lying to me. They're not just lying to the RMC, and karma truly does come around for people. So I can relay the facts as I know them to the business, and I can give the advice, that I have to give. And I'm very open and honest. I think you said that. So when I do give advice, I don't sugarcoat things. I don't hold anything back, but it's not personal. And I think sometimes the RMCs also need to remember it's not personal against you when things don't go your way or when an employee kind of rats on you. It sometimes just wasn't a good situation, and maybe it's best for everybody with the resolution that that was managed. But I really think having a great partnership and having an RMC who really keeps you in the loop on certain situations, I always prefer to be proactive instead of reactive, right? I don't want to know about something when it's too late to fix it. I want to know when there's still an opportunity for us to step in here and make ourselves look good. And I think because I worked at an RMC, my mind knows of a lot of options that sometimes not everyone thinks of. So I think some RMCs are like, oh, I'm afraid to tell them, or this is going to blow up. I really prefer you come to me and we really have a conversation about what the options are, because they might be surprised at the options I know or the people I know who can help us. So it's a team effort. It really is. And I mean, it's better for us to know and approach the business and say, this is the situation we have, and this is the advice we want to give, and this is what the cost is going to be. What do you think we should do? Then have the RMC kind of standing there with egg on their face.
So you have so many great insights, and so many people are saying, she is so frank and truthful. I love it. Yes, that's the truth. Thank you, thank you, thank you for saying so, and so on and so forth. I feel like you're touching a nerve for people that have sat in that chair before, and so I'm going to give you kind of a fun little hypothetical question here.
Okay.
So you are now the mobility queen, and you
Oh
can do
boy.
whatever you want. How do you change? How do you change the processes? What changes do you make?
Whew. Um, this is my dream.
It's your moment.
the the globability world is in front of me and I'm ready to reign over it. I always say I think and I when I moved into this role, um, I really would have liked to have maybe a little more time to really take a look at policies and take a look at what benefits are we really using and what aren't we using. And also, I love to read survey results. There's some really interesting insights into that in terms of what people care about, maybe what people don't care about. I mean, I've read some funny things. Shockingly, movers always get a lot of comments. And I think we're so far removed. I don't think about movers as much as you do, Ben, right? I just like, hey, that's way down the line. There's a crew at the house. I have no insight. But it's such an impact on the process. And by reading the survey and seeing there were so many comments about moving, it really made me think like this is really important to people. So this is something we need to take note of and make sure this one little process works good, right? It's a ripple effect. We're not going to build Rome in a day. I can't overhaul and change the world in one night. But if I can take kind of that low hanging fruit, right? It's like it gets a lot of attention, it makes an impact, and I can make it better. That's going to kind of snowball into more changes. That's really where I started and looking at the vendors you're using, what are the services they're providing. And I think some of the most rewarding experiences I had at Brookfield was I got to go on a lot of site visits. So I went to a moving company, I went on a DSP visit, I went to court, which was amazing to see the rental furniture warehouse and how they do all that stuff. So to really experience and understand these different processes and be able to look at it now on our side, I know how that process kind of works. So I feel comfortable maybe speaking to it or asking some questions about it and seeing what are our vendors doing to make those experiences really great for our people. You have to have the right partners or it's just never going to work.
Janet says yes about the moving experience is a major part of relocation, and I mean, I talk global mobility on this show all the time. People that are immigration or tax or policy, RMC, corporate folks, and obviously a ton about moving as well. But I always feel like the moving is kind of glossed over, and people are like, yeah, yeah, we know. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
immigration. Let's talk about
Yeah.
tax. Let's talk
Oh,
about really
yeah.
smart stuff, and technical stuff. And when moving happens, it's a couch on a truck, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But to your
Mm-hmm.
point, I mean, it's probably one of the most, if not the most, barring I can't get in the country because of my immigration status, it's probably the
Yeah.
next most impactful thing on a relocation. And so
It's
why is it so glossed over? And what do we do about that?
I have no clue. I know when I had a pack and load day, I actually called my mom crying because I was like, okay, it's real. Like I'm moving, right? This is happening. And I think the crew came and honestly, I'm a girl. I love shoes, makeup, and clothes, and I had a crew of three men, and I was so stressed out and I was like, oh my God, these guys hate me. They hate all my clothes. Like, I think I had like seriously been like 25 wardrobe boxes. It was disgusting. But that crew packed me up so quickly and so efficiently. Nothing was broken, nothing was scratched, right? And that I had a pretty bad experience leading up to that point. And once the moving crew came and did a really good job, I I forgot all about kind of the crap that happened before. I was like, you know what? It's done. My stuff is here. I'm living here, and nothing crazy happened, right? They did it so fast, so professionally. They made it so easy for me that we were like laughing through this whole process. Imagine laughing while moving. Nobody laughs while they're packing up their whole life. Like, come on. So I don't know why it's so glossed over. I think I'll toot Ben's horn a little bit. I say, you know, when I worked at 4C and I took my previous boss actually to your warehouse and did a tour, I think she really saw the amount of work and thought that goes into that. And it really gave us a big picture of like, that's such a huge part and it's so important. And I encourage people, if you have the opportunity to really get down kind of at that base level of what your employees are experiencing, it's really helpful for you to see and understand the importance of each of our vendors. And I really do wish that moving crews got so much more attention than they do. I still remember my driver. He delivered here a few weeks ago in the pouring rain, and I ran out there with my dog because they were so great with my dog. And I was like, Dad, hi, how are you? Like, you know, like I was so happy to see him. And I don't know if he got any credit and, you know, like, but he made such an impact on me. And I think we should do a better job of focusing on that and trying to find a way to really highlight and let people know, you know, that the moving experience is going to be great and showcasing those great experiences.
That's great. And it's funny because we talk about empathy so much and using empathy towards our transferees and assignees. And I do sometimes I think that the movers need some empathy, selfishly, right? I mean, they're out there in the heat. It's 90 something degrees. They're sweating their face off and they're wearing a mask nowadays. And
which is crazy.
It's brutal, And so Janet says if we do have the Indian Small Movers Conference in Fort Worth in November on my birthday, there will be a tour of a mover warehouse. Watch for the dates. I think I encourage everybody who's watching this that might be at RMC or might be in a global mobility role, to Rachel's point, to reach out to your local moving providers, or reach out to folks that aren't your local moving providers. And either way, try to schedule a warehouse tour. I'll tell you what, I brought you and Anna in for that tour, and I'll tell you what, our warehouse was not like immaculate by any stretch. I mean, it was a working warehouse, and I said,
oh yeah, there was a delivery coming in. They were working.
I was like, there's gonna be stuff everywhere. It's a working warehouse. Like, we are moving furniture today, okay? And watch out, or we might tap you to put some boxes on a truck, because I mean, it's June or whatever. It was like in the heat of it.
Yeah, it was warm out. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I think that's just what real is, because we go into these meetings, and you do these presentations as a salesperson. We do our flashy PowerPoints, and we have our stock images of movers and these pristine collared shirts, walking up, and it's like, well, that's not really how furniture gets moved. I mean, let's be honest here. And I think if we showed, I think as movers, if we showed how difficult it was, I think we'd probably actually get a little bit more empathy. So I appreciate you saying that. Let's see, we got some great comments coming over here. I love when people love on each other in the comments when they're talking. They're like, Molly Feldman, you're awesome. It's like, no,
yeah. So when this is over, can I read the comments? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Reread, review, rehash.
Yeah, and like Stacy said, send me your address. She's gonna send you something, and if you want to just put your address.
I want that Quicken Loan swag.
Yo, that's how you get cannolis, okay? Let me give you a little Love and Reload 101 here, okay? Start calling people out, and that's how you get cannolis. Victoria McCullough says, I think because moving services is so regulated, the RMC and client really can't affect changes. It's up to the crew to make it great or break it. Yeah, maybe. Tim Rambo says, hi, Rachel.
What's up, Tim? Tim's also fun to grab a drink with.
Oh, yeah, Tim's good times.
Yeah.
Jeff Nadeau says, love her energy and passion. Well done, young lady. Love you, Ben.
Is that your wife?
I doubt it. I doubt she would lead with love you, Ben. I don't need to know who it is, but an anonymous person says love you, Ben. Is that your wife? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, honey, if you're watching, she watches sometimes. She doesn't usually make it till the end, so I'm sure that's not her fault.
Well, yeah, she's got those two little ones
Oh,
running around. This is not a priority.
yeah. Actually, that's from Saudi Arabia, I believe. Sandra Coleman said
Awesome.
that. WTG, Ben Cross, way to go,
Way to
I guess.
go. Way to go. Yep.
Thank you. I don't keep up with the millennial language here, so
Well,
thank
I'm
you.
happy to help when I can.
So this is great. Let's see here. I want to see. Oh, we were just talking about moving stories and about all sorts of stuff. What's your funniest story working in Relo?
Oh gosh. I have so many funny stories and weird things that happened. I know I was on a panel at the DRRC and I shared a story about a gentleman I worked with in my previous role, and that saga, when I left, was still going on. So I don't know if I'll ever top that kind of wacky tale, but I have kind of a thing. I don't love talking about pet shipments. I've had a few like hairy situations with pets, and it's
Pun
really funny.
intended.
Yeah. It's funny because I have a 13-year-old corgi named Maxwell. He is like my partner in crime. We do everything together. So I love pets. Like, don't get me wrong. I love that people have dogs and pets. I just don't want it to be my problem. It's kind of goes back to people thinking, well, you should be able to do this in an hour without truly understanding, so many regulations and things. But I had a gentleman who had a dog that on our orientation call had said it's like Scooby Doo. He's like Scooby Doo. I don't know what kind of dog Scooby Doo is. Like, I'm sorry, I'm ignorant to that.
Great Dane.
Yes, it's a Great Dane.
Go
So,
Danes.
so he said the dog is going to stay with family while I'm on assignment in Mexico. So fine, I don't have to worry about Scooby Doo. That's great. Well, the man called me and he's like, my dog cannot stay with family and I'm leaving for Mexico tomorrow and I need to take him with me. Well, the Great Dane cannot go in the cabin. The Great Dane apparently needs a special crate. It's going to cost like $12,000. And originally the client was like, whatever it costs, it's fine. So we're like, okay, well, it's going to cost $12,000. And they're like, oh my God, no way. So just like doing the research about the Great Dane was really interesting and kind of funny. And I mean, just after that, I was just like, please never come to me with a pet again. Like, it was just a mad dash for the dog and the pet shipment. And the dog did make it to Mexico eventually, obviously not overnight, but I just imagined like this company coming out to build the crate around the dog. I don't know why it kind of made me giggle a little bit, but
The thought of building a crate around a dog, like while he's like actually
and
moving, like
he's like Scooby Doo. So I'm just literally picturing like this little cartoon like flying across the world.
gosh, let me see here. I got one more question here, actually. Some questions that you actually had for me here.
Oh yeah, I wrote
Do you
some
have these?
questions. Yeah, I have them, so I don't need you to help me. I came prepared today.
Okay.
So like kind of, I think just because they're talking about movers and what a role they play, I wanted to know, what do you think movers hate most about moving people, and what do they love most about moving people?
I think movers, based on the crazy amounts of comments I see on these mover groups on Facebook, where it gets wild.
Inside
It's
information.
wild. You know what they hate? They hate being disrespected.
Mm,
Like they're a very proud bunch. They work with their
mhm,
hands and they move stuff, and they're very proud of the techniques that they have and kind of the craftsmanship that goes into it. And they don't like to be hovered over and kind of like micromanaged. And there's like a person that might be moving for the first time in their life, and these people move furniture every single day, and they feel sometimes like they're being condescended and things. Now, of course, we always preach empathy, and we're always like, the customer's always right, and it's really important to listen, and the voice of the customer, and all this kind of stuff. But you're talking about somebody that's been moving furniture for 30 years, and his
oh
daddy moved
yeah.
furniture, and his daddy's daddy moved furniture. and they can be kind of thick-headed sometimes, you know. So that's one of the things, you know. You know, yeah.
What about what do they love about it? They don't say that on the Facebook group.
You know, they don't dwell so much on the love
Okay.
aspect as much as the relo aspect. They're more real. What do they love about it? You know, I think they love the fact that you know, the money is pretty good for, frankly, let's be honest, probably where they, you know, their education level was, you
Hmm.
know, and so they found an industry where they can make pretty good money. Some of them make, you know, $200 a day if they're a helper. Some of them can actually, some of them can, and this isn't all the time, make 80 to 100 grand, you know, a year with a high school education.
Hmm.
So I think that, you know, there's a lot of folks in our society that don't fit the mold that I think that we always say that you have to be successful. You know, we always want our kids to grow up and go to college and get a good office job, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, there's some people that just aren't built like that, you know, and so I
Hmm.
think that some people like the freedom of the work. And
Sure.
they're in amazing shape too, by the way. Like these people, like I remember I started a moving company at my last job. I started a moving company within the company, and I ordered uniforms for everybody, right? And so I'm over there with my little t-shirt order form. You know, I'm like, all right, you know, like, give me 50 medium, give me 100 large, give me like 200 XL, and they get them, and they're like this big. These guys are like tiny. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm swimming in this shirt over here. Can I get some mediums? Like I'm trying to show off my, you know, my beach body over here. I mean, they're in phenomenal shape, incredible.
Yeah, I should probably go move some stuff for like a week after this quarantine.
Yeah.
Gotta burn that quarantine 19 or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Let
Yep.
me know if you need any help, Ben.
We always need help, especially from empathetic professionals such as yourself, Rachel.
Sure, sure.
Um. So let me just wrap up here because you know it's been an hour and this has been a lot of fun and folks have been chiming in left and right here. Let's yeah, see Rory knows because he's been on there or he's like things movers hate thinking we aren't as good as they are, not even offering water when it's hot out, talking down to us. We love getting out and seeing different people in houses, the
Yeah,
hard
they
work
probably go to some
itself.
cool houses. If you're
Yeah,
moving like
yeah.
a VP or something, you're probably in some primo property.
I mean, we've moved several Detroit Red Wings. So we moved Nick
Oh,
Lidstrom
that's
back to Sweden. We move
awesome.
all the Swedes, and they come over here and they're in a one bedroom apartment, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
they leave and they're like the king of Sweden, and they have like two containers,
You
boats,
collected
jet
a lot.
skis, Ferraris, like it's wild. Um, yeah, and then Brian Fiore is laughing because that's actually the shirt he wears is
Oh,
a
it's
medium.
medium.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and then Rory says he takes a 3X because he ain't been on the truck in a minute. So,
Well, Ben,
yeah,
you
appreciate you.
got a shirt that was too small for you that you gave me for Move
Yeah.
for Hunger. I still have it. I wear it to the gym. Um, so I'm always repping Move for Hunger. But it was funny because you're like, yeah, the shirt doesn't fit me. You can
Uh,
have it.
yeah, half the Detroit homeless population is running around in Move for Hunger T-shirts right now because I get like mediums or larges all day long, and like I don't know what they're trying to do, but anyway,
Oh
I
my
love you guys, appreciate y'all. So yeah, Brian says yes, indeed, that is his shirt size. 33 years a mover. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Rachel, you know, we're running out of time. I want to thank everybody that chimed in here, but Rachel, I want to give you the floor, and I want to just ask you if there's anything else you want to leave us with.
No, just thanks so much for having me, Ben. I joke a lot since moving to the West Side. I know our Detroit peeps maybe haven't seen me. I didn't ghost you all. So feel free to reach out via email, text me, call me anytime. I'm happy to stay connected and be a resource, and I'm trying to make a comeback, guys. So I look forward to hopefully seeing some of these faces, new and old. Hopefully, we'll get to go to some conferences and have some cool events. Eventually, someday, we'll see what happens. But I just appreciate the opportunity, Ben. I appreciate you always believing in me, and I appreciate all of my global mobility friends, especially shout out to Brian Smith, too, who kind of always have looked out for me and helped me. I think as a young professional, it is so important, especially as a woman kind of trying to make it out here. I admittedly don't have a ton of kind of older, not that you're old, but I don't have a ton of mentors. So I just appreciate the support this community has shown me, especially you, Ben, and for having me here. It just means so much. So thank you.
Rachel, I'm so thankful for you and having you as a friend. We've had a lot of great times, and I look forward to having a lot more in the near future. I can't wait for you to come back to the D. I actually have a
My coffee
coffee mug. I
mug.
got a coffee mug around here somewhere. I got to find it. That I've been waiting since like Christmas to give you. So you got to come. You got to come back to the D,
I'll
and
be
I'll.
back this summer sometime. Don't worry. I'll let you know.
And matter of fact, tune in tomorrow because we will be down in Detroit on location. First time I think Love and Relo has ever done something in person. I want to say maybe I don't even know. And so we are going to be interviewing Janet Webster Jones, owner of the Source Booksellers, which is a black-owned neighborhood independent bookstore down in Detroit, who will also be the official bookstore of our Book of the Month book, White Fragility. So shout out to Janet Webster Jones and her daughter Allison. We're going to interview them tomorrow. It's going to be a different time, so stay tuned. I think it's going to be at 3 o'clock Eastern instead of 4 because I'm trying to beat that traffic back home. So anyway, tune in tomorrow. That's going to be awesome. She's an amazing woman, so I can't wait to talk to her. And then want to give a quick little shout out to our sponsor again, Sweet America. And Michael James over there at Sweet America, thank you so much for sponsoring. And thank you, Love and Real, for allowing Sweet America to advertise on the show. To help listeners get to know us a bit, let's run through a quick top 10 reasons to choose Sweet America as your supplier partner. 1, we've been in business for 30 years, so you know that we know what we are doing. 2, we are an employee-owned company, which means every Sweet America team member cares about outcomes. 3, average employee tenure on our placement team equals 7 years, so again, you know that we know what we are doing. 4, complimentary mattress swaps, so you get the best night's sleep. 5, full-service concierge-style destination services program, including virtual and online support. 6, hospital-grade sanitation protocol for post-COVID reservation offers you peace of mind in these trying times. 7, 24/7 guest service so you can always ask questions and get an answer. 8, multiple ways to personalize an in-suite package for kids, pets, and even vegans. I always laugh when I see even vegans. 9,
They don't like
technology
no
that is
leather.
easy. Yeah, is that what it is? No leather for the vegans?
Yeah, vegans, they don't believe in that.
Why did I not know
Duh.
that? Thank you. Wow. Yeah, wow, okay. 9, technology that is easy and customizable with the goal of making every reservation easy and stress-free. 10, personalized and tailored suite packages makes every reservation unique. Just like you, Rachel Taylor. And thank you, Janet Turner, my producer, my super producer back there behind the scenes. Love you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for everybody tuning in today to Love and Real. This has been a lot of fun. Rach, it's great to see you.
You too.